So the webinar is going to be recorded and it'll be distributed. We'll post it on the EFC's YouTube page, and I'll send it out to all the registrants as well as the water listserv. So feel free to reference it afterwards. So with that, I'll turn it over to Carla or whoever else is going to begin, and we'll go from there.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carla West. I'm Senior Director for Economic Security for the Division of Social Services, Economic and Family Services section. Very excited that we are close to the rollout of the Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. As you know, this was a program that was initially conceived under the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, and then further enhanced in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Funding for these programs come from both of those acts. A little over 21 million for North Carolina from the Consolidated Appropriations Act, and a little over $17 million from the American Rescue Plan Act. The program is a brand new program on the federal and state level, and was it took a while for the our federal partners to develop the policy on the federal level, and then North Carolina then had to develop a model plan and a policy for the state. It is a temporary program. The funds end September 30th, 2023, or whenever the funds run out. So if we spend all of the money in the first month, then there are no additional funds. Our team has been working very closely with the team at the UNC School of Government and with county directors all across the state of North Carolina, as well as a few vendors from water and wastewater. I do see a question about turning my camera on, but Elsa Marie, I'm getting a comment that says, I cannot start my video because the host has stopped it, which is why I am not showing my video right this minute.
I will fix that.
Okay, and so our team, along with all those partners I talked about, have been working on the policy, and it is now ready. You should have all received a copy of the policy through the listserv, also receiving it through your local DSS directors' offices, whom hopefully you are working with closely and developing a plan for your county. So that is a brief introduction. Now that my camera is on, I'm going to turn it over to our team, who has developed a few slides to talk about the program and talk about the policy. But the main part of this presentation is really to get the questions that you have, to see if we can answer them. If we are unable to answer your questions on this meeting today, please know that we will be doing an FAQ along with Elsa Marie that will be posted both in on the UNC website and also on the website that the state of North Carolina has developed for the water assistance program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jerquita Hicks Smallwood and Jasmine Simmons to get the presentation started. Jerquita and Jasmine, I'll turn it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jasmine is going to be providing the presentation today, and I will help her through that, and then we'll be available to answer any questions. So I'll turn it over to Jasmine.
Hello, I will be sharing my screen. Okay. So this is just a presentation, as Carla has already said, of the Department of Health and Human Services, our LIHWAP program, and this is just a general overview, and this breaks down the policy that was sent out to everyone. General information. As we have stated before, this is our LIHWAP program. This is a federally funded program that provides emergency assistance to low-income households to prevent disconnection or to provide assistance with reconnection of drinking and wastewater services. Key dates. Many of you should have already received the vendor service agreement and the data sharing agreement that was provided through the listserv as well. The data share, if
Jasmine, quick question. Could you go into presentation mode so it's easier to see your
okay, yes.
slides?
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Wait, now you guys are in my way. Hold on. Okay, can you see my slide?
Yep, we're good now.
Okay. So for vendors that would like to do the data sharing portion, all data is required to be submitted through the Zixmail link that was sent out by November 12th. And the public will be notified of this program through our social media accounts. We're going to send out a press release and flyers to be posted in the local county DSS offices. The grant requires that we have priority groups as to how we will serve the household. So we have priority groups 1, 2, and 3. The LIHWAP assistance will be made available to these households, like I said, through these different priority group systems to lessen the hardships on these households that have already lost either their wastewater services or in jeopardy of losing their wastewater services. Groups 1 and 2, they will be served first. If funds are still available, group 3 will be served after groups 1 and 2 are already completed. These are just the timeframes of how we will be doing the priority groups. Priority groups 1 and 2, they will be served between December 1st and January 3rd. There will be a data sharing, the data matching portion. That's from where the vendors have sent in data from the clients of these priority groups. And our NC-FAST system will try to match specific data to these groups so that they can have a payment made directly to their water provider. And as far as the applications, households in priority groups 1 and 2 that are not considered categorically eligible, which will be from the data matching, they will have to apply, and they will be able to apply by phone with a telephonic signature. They will be able to apply online through our ePass portal, or they will have to print an application, mail it or fax it in to their local county DSS office, or they will have to apply in person. Categorically eligible in these category groups, they will not be required to apply. County staff, they will do a search in our NC-FAST system to see if they're categorically eligible. And these households will provide specific information to determine their status, identify who their vendor is for the payment, and what amount is needed to alleviate the crisis. If these households are identified as categorically eligible, like I said, the county will make a payment on their behalf.
Jasmine, I just want to kind of jump in right here to explain categorically eligibility to the group. So households will be deemed as categorically eligible if they currently receive food and nutrition services, formerly known as food stamps, if they're receiving any temporary assistance to needy families, or if they receive low-income energy assistance services, for fiscal year 2020 or 2021. I just wanted to kind of add some context there as to what categorical eligibility is. Thank you, Jasmine.
Mhm. And then starting January 3rd, if we have any funds still available, that's when we open up to priority groups 3. And but also any priority group will be able to apply starting January 3rd, but specifically priority group 3, since we will have already majority served priority groups 1 and 2 already. And it will be the same process as far as application and categorically eligibility criteria. The data matching process, there are basically 3 methods that assistance will be provided to these eligible households. The data match, like I said, is the data sharing agreements that are established between the vendors and their counties. NC-FAST will compare the data received from the vendors and match the households in the priority groups. NC-FAST will generate a report to identify the information received from the vendors. And then the counties will call the vendor to confirm the amount owed for that particular household. And they will approve and send the payment to that vendor. A list of customers that were not matched will be returned to the vendor with the request to provide additional information about applying for LIHWAP to these households. And like Jaquita said before, categorically eligible will be based on if a household is receiving either Work First, food and nutrition services, or receive our low income energy assistance, which is LIHWAP, in the fiscal year of 2020 through 2021 last year. And if so, an application is not required. Now, if they are not matched to be categorically eligible, they would just have to apply. Priority groups 1, 2, and 3, vulnerability. When we talk about vulnerability, we define it as having either a water or wastewater bill, or they're subject to the risk of their water services costs going up. So if a household is living in their private living arrangement in their own home and they're responsible for their own bill, they are considered vulnerable and that their bill can be paid. If a household is living in a private living arrangement with a water or wastewater source and the bill is not, the bill cannot be separated out or broken down, LIHWAP, they will pay all of the charges if it can't be separated out. Now, if it can be, then they're only going to pay what the water portion is. Jaquita, would you like to add anything for vulnerability?
No, I think you covered it, Jasmine. I think there is a question in the chat regarding that, and once we get the Q&A, we can clarify that for the person that added that to the chat.
Okay, so yes, vulnerability is just basically if the bill can be itemized or not. If it can be, then only the water portion will be paid. If it can't, then the whole bill will be paid for the household. For priority groups 1 and 2, whatever the amount is, there's no limit to what can be paid on the bill. If the bill say is $700-800, the whole amount will be paid. But for priority groups 3, since they're not considered disconnected or in jeopardy of disconnection, only $600 can be paid towards their bill, because their priority groups 3 are households that have a current bill. Payments, yes, payments will be made directly to the vendors, as we do with all of our other energy programs. The vendor must submit a water or wastewater vendor service agreement, and it must be approved. So you have to sign the vendor agreement to participate in the program, but the data sharing, that only needs to be signed if you plan on submitting data for your clients to see if they can be data matched and to see if they're eligible for category eligibility. Payments cannot be made to vendors that do not have a valid vendor service agreement. Credit balances. I believe that's referring to priority groups 3. Like I said, those are current bills, so they may have a credit on their account, and the bill must be in the name of the applicant or someone in that household. We can't pay bills for individuals that are not considered in that household, or to deceased individuals or minor children. Okay, now it's the questions portion, and I will share my screen.
Thank you very much, Jasmine and Draquita. I'm gonna work on kind of consolidating questions and asking them. But if folks, I see somebody has their hand raised. I think I'm gonna go through some of the ones in the chat first, but then we'll get to hands raised. Also, as a reminder, if you could put them in the Q&A, then it will help us keep track of them a little bit better than in the chat, because then we can check them off. So please put your questions in the Q&A, but we'll also ask the ones in the chat. So there are several questions about the vendor service agreement. Someone asked, how do we know if the vendor has submitted their vendor either vendor service agreement or vendor data sharing agreement? Is there a way that utilities can check and see if someone has submitted that for them?
So those vendor agreements and data sharing agreements, those are agreements between the vendor and the county, the local county DSS offices. So those data sharing agreements and vendor agreements should have been sent to the local county agency. And then there were some that were sent to us. There are maybe about 3 to 4, but they should have been sent to the local county DSS office.
Okay, and where can a vendor find the vendor contract that is mentioned in the vendor agreement?
So those contracts are listed on our website, on the NCDHHS website, and I can drop the link in the chat for everyone. Give me a couple of minutes for that.
That sounds good. Stephen can do that too.
Okay.
And we have lots about the data match, so I'm just gonna go through them. Someone asked if has there been any changes to the data sharing format, and where could someone access that data sharing format?
Okay, so I do have a follow-up question for that, Elsmarie. Are they referencing how to share the data to the counties, or are they asking specifically about the data sharing agreement?
I think they're asking about the format of actually giving data to the counties, because they list various information, but I think it would be good to answer both of those questions for the rest of the attendees.
Sure. So there is a update to the data sharing format. We just received it late yesterday afternoon from our NC-FAST partners, and we're working on trying to get that out to everyone because they are looking for more specific information that is listed on that format. So we'll try to get that out as soon as possible. And then for the data sharing agreement, we have not had any additional changes to that particular document.
Okay, and some of the data that will be needed from vendors, could you give us an idea of what that will be, even though I know it's kind of being changed right now?
Sure. So some of the information that they're looking for first name, middle initial, last name. They are asking for social security numbers. We have had some water vendors that do not supply that information. They're also looking for date of birth for that particular customer. They're looking for gender as well as sex. And we have heard from some vendors that they do not collect that information, but that information is on the updated format that will be sent out.
Okay, and can utilities still submit as much information as they have, even if they don't have all of those pieces of information?
Yes, we are asking for vendors to submit whatever that they have so that we can try to do as many matches as possible to avoid households having to come in and actually complete an application.
Okay, thank you. What is the turnaround time for the data match? How long after the vendor shares the data before the list of non-eligible and categorically eligible customers find out that they are eligible or not?
Sure. I will defer to Jasmine on that. Jasmine, do you have a timeline on when data matching will occur with our NCFAS partners?
I know that they will be data matching it on November 13th. So I'm assuming that day or the following day is when they will provide who was matched and who was not.
Kind of with that timeline in mind, someone asked, do you anticipate returning draft data sharing agreements to utilities prior to the November 12th data sharing deadline? So if they're planning to match on that Saturday is the 13th, will folks who have submitted a draft of the data sharing agreement or a question about it, will that be answered before Friday?
Yes, we are doing our best to answer all those questions that we've received to try to return those back to those vendors as soon as possible.
All right, and who enters the information into NC-FAS? Is that the local DSS?
Yes, the local DSS agencies will be the ones that enter the information into NC-FAS.
Okay, and I think we may have already mentioned it, but as a vendor, how do vendors submit their data needed to the county? Will they request it, or will it just need to be submitted?
So county local DSS officers should have reached out to the vendors in their county to just kind of give an overview of this program, to share data sharing agreements as well as vendor agreements, and to share the deadlines for that. And also to share the format. However, again, it's been revised, so we're working to send it back out to the counties. But they should have been contacted by their local county DSS. But if not, I would encourage the vendor to reach out to them to just say, hey, we have this information, or hey, we received this data sharing agreement and we know what to do, so that they can get that information over to them as soon as possible.
Thank you. I think that answers another question. There's a vendor that serves multiple counties, and they have yet to confirm that they have vendor service agreements with all of them. And the counties haven't contacted this vendor yet. So the vendor should reach out to the county. The utility should reach out to their county DSS office or multiple counties if they serve multiple counties, and ask them for that vendor service agreement and any other information. Yes?
Yes, that's what I would encourage, especially if the vendor is wishing to participate in the program.
Okay. Is the data sharing required of a utility to participate in the program?
It is not, but we do encourage it again, due to social distancing practices and having households to come into the local agency. We are asking for that, but you do not, if you do not complete a data sharing agreement or provide the data, then those households will have to actually apply. However, there is a nuance to that. So if those households do reach out to the local county Department of Social Services to apply, we have instructed the county DSS officers to do a search of their own in NC-FAS to determine if those households are categorically eligible. So for instance, if a vendor does not send in data and there's a household wishing to apply, they can reach out to their local county DSS. That caseworker can actually look into the system to see if they're participating in those 3 programs that we went over: food and nutrition, work first, or low income energy assistance. And if they are, then that county can go ahead and write a check for what is due to restore services or what is due to avoid disconnection without doing an application for those households.
Okay. So even if it's not officially matched, there might be a way that the local office could match.
That's correct. Yes.
Marie, if I could just add to that, I know that there have been several counties several water and wastewater providers who have been concerned about signing the data sharing agreement because of the information that is listed in there. We are considering doing a very quick revision to that data sharing agreement, taking out the requirement for social security numbers, or at least explaining why we are asking for social security numbers if you do have that available. But as Jaquita mentioned, it is not a requirement at all to share data to participate in this program. The only thing that is required is that signed vendor service agreement so that payments can be made to that vendor. The data sharing agreement simply was a way for us to make it a little easier for water and wastewater vendors to be able to identify customers who are eligible automatically for the payment and get that payment to them as quickly as possible. In addition to helping our customers out in North Carolina be able to quickly be identified and get those payments made. But again, it's not a requirement for that water and wastewater vendor to sign the data sharing agreement or submit their data.
Thank you. Does the applicant need to be the account holder with the vendor? And would that applicant also need to show proof of residence?
I'm sorry, Esmarie, can you repeat that?
Yeah, does the applicant, so if someone's applying, they weren't automatically matched, do they need to be the account holder with the vendor? And do they need to show proof of residence?
No, they do need to be the account holder. But as far as showing proof of residency, that is not a requirement. We just need the utility bill or the
Thank
water
you.
bill, I'm sorry.
The manual mentions calls will be made by the counties when they find a match between the data shared by the vendor and the eligible applicant. Can the utilities expect to get a call for every applicant? I'm guessing this is to confirm the overdue balance.
Yeah, so we're not asking the counties, and I just want to clarify that. So we're not asking the counties to contact the vendor every time they receive a match. What is happening is once we receive the data from the vendor, that match will be completed in NC-FAST. And once that's done, then those bills will be paid. However, if somebody comes into the agency with an with a water bill, I have my LIHWAP hat on, I apologize. But if somebody comes into the agency with a water or wastewater bill, and let's say the program starts December, but they have like a November bill, then that county caseworker would contact that water vendor to determine what is needed to avoid disconnection or restore.
Okay, thank you. Another question, this county has separate vendors for water and sewer. Should they have both of them sign the vendor and data sharing agreements?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
So if a county has, so say their customers have one utility for water and a different utility for wastewater, do both of those utilities need to get a vendor agreement and a data sharing agreement to the county?
Yes, they do, because if one is paid for water and one is paid for wastewater, you have to have a vendor agreement on file in order to receive payment.
Okay. I'm going to swap over. You mentioned that if a customer has more than one service on a bill and those services can't be separated out, then LIHWAP can pay for the whole bill in order to get service restored. This question is about a municipality that provides all services. So the customers that are on the delinquent list must satisfy all utility delinquent amounts for all services before reconnection. A small percentage of our customers have water only. When giving the data to the county and searching for customers that are delinquent, should they only list the water only delinquent accounts?
Yes, LIHWAP is designed for water and wastewater bills only, not electric or anything else. However, if there is trash or stormwater or late fees that are tied to that water bill, they can also include those as well. However, we won't be able to pay anything other than water or wastewater with LIHWAP funds.
Okay. If a customer information was submitted through the utility and they've paid their account to restore services prior to the start date of December 1st, will a payment still be submitted, or will you contact the vendor to see if the account is still cut off for non-payment or not? So I'm guessing that they submit the list on November 12th and it says this person is delinquent, but then by December 1st, they've already paid their bill. Will the counties be checking to confirm before making that payment that that customer is still delinquent?
We are encouraging that. However, we are unsure about the influx of customers that we will receive. But we are asking caseworkers to do that. Especially if they come in with a bill. If they go to the office because, say for instance, they're not data matched, then we're asking them to contact them. And then I'll refer to Carla or Jasmine or anybody else to add to that.
Yeah, I would just add that there is, let's say that they have paid the bill, and we have sent funds to the water or wastewater vendor, and the customer has already paid the bill. The water or wastewater vendor can put the payment that they receive toward a credit towards that account if they've received it and they're no longer in danger. But I'm not sure, and that's a great question. So let us go back and just make sure that our policy is really clear on for both the local county offices and our vendors on what to do in situations like that. If a payment is made to the vendor after the account has come into compliance. We'll just make sure that's really clear in the policy. That's a great question.
Thank you. Kind of along the lines of credit balances, in the vendor agreement, number 14, it states that credit balances have to be refunded to the program. Is this an ongoing program or one-time payment? If there's ongoing, additional charges will hit the account to satisfy the credit. So I think maybe the question is like, at what point do you need to return any credit balances?
So we are requesting that credit balances be returned back to the local county DSS agency if that household has moved or if that household has been deceased, has passed away. Other than that, we're not asking for a return. And that should be clarified in our policy, but we'll go back and check that to make sure that that is specific. But anything other than that, we're not looking for funds to be returned.
Okay. Thank you. So if there's a credit balance, the next bill will probably just be paid for by that credit.
Correct. Yes. Or a portion of that.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question. What if the template contract seems to have provisions that conflict with local ordinances? Isn't the county officer the only one that can approve and assign a contract? She's asking if the county manager needs to get board approval in order to sign this contract, and they're not going to be able to meet as a board or get their manager to sign it. They may not meet until after December 1st. I'll say for Dave that in terms of what you need to do, I don't know if Carla or Jaquita will know what the processes are for the county to get that approved. But we can also ask other folks at the School of Government. But if a utility can't get their vendor service or data sharing agreement service, if they can't get those agreements signed before December 1st, can they do that after December 1st and still submit them?
Yes, they can. With the vendor agreement, you can submit one of those at any time to become a vendor. And then, that will just be uploaded into our system to show that vendor is an authorized vendor to accept payment. With the data sharing agreement, we're going to say, yes, you can. And then we'll just continue to look at doing a match for those households.
Thank you. Okay. How would those who have shared water accounts with other tenants apply? For example, the landlord has a single water account for all tenants. Would that mean that the landlord would have to apply? Or could one tenant apply, but the payment would be made for multiple tenants? They all share the water bill.
Right. So the landlord can either apply or he can write out statements for those households to show what their portion of the water or wastewater bill is. And then they can come in and actually apply for those funds.
Okay, so if the landlord applies, they would need to use the income information for at least one of their tenants or all of their tenants to show who's eligible. under the income
Right.
requirements?
Yeah, so they would have to meet those. So say for instance, there's 5 people. They would have to meet the income limits for 5 people in order to receive services to get that bill paid.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna do 2 more questions and then give the folks who have raised their hand a chance to ask questions as well. Are there opportunities to resubmit data, and how often? There's some utilities that, the status of their customers change daily in terms of whether or not they're eligible for disconnection.
Right.
So I have another question to add to that. So if folks are submitting data on November 12th, as of what date should they calculate their list of customers who are disconnected or eligible for disconnection? And then if there's any other opportunities to resubmit data, how they would calculate that?
Jaquita, do you mind if I take a stab at that and then you can fill
Sure.
it in? So
Yes.
for this first round of priority groups 1 and 2, we're doing a one-time data share. We're doing it this weekend to identify as many people as we possibly can who are in priority group 1 and 2 and get those payments out. At this moment, we haven't determined whether there'll be additional opportunities to submit new data. It really depends on the funding and how much is used for priority groups 1 and 2 and what's left. And then we'll have to look at future months on whether or not we can do additional data matches, maybe monthly or something like that. And so for now, you go ahead and submit as of your most recent data. And we realize that people make payments every single day. And so it's not going to be the most current when it gets to December 1st, but we need to have it now so that we can run it through our programming and get the list to the counties so that they can start writing the checks on December 1st. So we understand that the date is not the most ideal, but it's the best we can do to make sure that the payments get made as quickly as possible in December. So Jaquita, anything to add to that?
No, I think you answered it well, Carla. Thank you for that.
Kind of along those lines, there's a question about, since the data sharing format is just changing now, will there be an extension to when those will be submitted, or will it be Friday and that's not going to change?
We can reach out to NC-FAS for that answer. We've had a question like that came in actually on yesterday as well, asking for an extension to gather that data. So we will reach out to them as soon as this ends. And Elsemarie, we will send that to you so that if possible, you can send that out to everyone.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you. And is that data sharing agreement, does it need to be signed by the utility and the local DSS?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. And I'm going to allow Susan to unmute and ask her question live.
Hey, this is Susan. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think we're a little confused on our side about what will and will not be paid on the combined utility bill. The data that we have to send over is the total past due balance, which does include other charges other than water and wastewater. So I think I understood if that was the case, the whole bill would be paid. Is that a true statement?
So Susan, are those fees related to the water or wastewater, like stormwater fees, trash, any late fees, anything of that nature?
Yes, ma'am. Exactly those things.
Yes, so those will be paid. If we can't, distinguish between what is what, and you send that over, then yes, that entire bill will be paid.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thanks for clarifying. So I have 2 questions about, for example, a leak. So what if a service address has a leak, and is there a way to get a repair done to prevent another live bill, another high bill?
Yeah, so LIHWAP funds cannot be used for repairs. But you know, if that bill is $1,000 and their services is currently off, and you know their data matched, or they come in to do an application and they're categorically eligible, we're going to pay that entire $1,000. And I would encourage for those households to possibly reach out to weatherization to see if that is something that they will be able to assist with. We do have a weatherization program, which is part of our energy programs here at the state office. And I would just encourage for those households to reach out to weatherization to see if that's something that they can assist with.
Thank you. All right, a slew of questions from someone. Do all the accounts that qualify have to have water on them? We have some services with sewer only combined with a well. So they have a private well, but then they're on a utilities service for wastewater.
So we can pay the sewer bill. However, anything regarding wells, repairs, any servicing, we cannot pay with LIHWAP. But with sewer, yes, we can pay that bill. It's water and wastewater, or both, or.
Okay, thank you. And it's correct that they will not be granting customer refunds if the payment created a credit. So they're not going to be actually giving these funds to a customer, even if the credit is on the account.
No funds will go to the customers at all.
And how will the payments be applied to the customer accounts?
So the finance departments in the local county DSS offices will be sending over payments either via EFT or via a check to the water vendors to pay for those bills. And I know there may be some water vendors that also do electric. So it will be the same process that we use, you know, for our crisis intervention program or our low energy income assistance program.
Thank you. In the information that was sent, it mentioned a letter that will be sent to customers if they are not an automatic match. Could utilities have a copy of that letter?
That letter, and I'll defer to Carla again. I don't know if we went back and decided on that. So I'll ask for Carla's assistance with that.
So there will be a letter that is sent when a household is going to be receiving a payment on their water or wastewater bill, letting them know that a payment is being sent to their vendor on their behalf. So that is one letter that will be generated by the local county office. We've also are in the process of creating a flyer that we're going to send out to all of the water and wastewater vendors and the local county offices, so that water and wastewater vendors can share that with their customers. If they have a customer who is struggling and you want to give them information about how to apply, there's a flyer. If you wanted to put those flyers in your like billing statements or something like that for those who maybe are past due or who are struggling, you'll be able to do that. I will tell you, keep an eye on, you know, money, because it's 38 million sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not a lot of money. And we are starting off with original allocations, just using the Consolidated Appropriations Act money, which is about $20 million. Until the budget gets passed. And when the budget gets passed, then we will add in the remaining money from the ARPA dollars. Any other letters going out? I am not sure where you read that, so I don't know if that's in the policy or not, but we'll be doing public social media requests and a press release to inform the public about the program, encouraging them to come in and apply.
Thank you. How far back could they be out of water services?
So what we're looking at is we're looking at you know, paying what is needed. And I want to say that guidance from our federal partners was less than for 12 months. Anything over 12 months, you know, we can't look at paying. But if it's 12 months, you know, and current, we can. But anything past that, we cannot.
Okay. We've gotten a couple questions again about kind of how the process works and a specific request for a flow chart or a timeline of how the process works to get payment? Is something like that in the works?
Yes, I want to say that we provided a timeline was provided in our policy for payment. Um, but they will be starting on the process on the 13th. I saw in the chat where somebody said, "Oh, they're doing this on a Saturday." Yes, our NC-FAST partners work numerous weekends to make sure that programs are up and running and that we're serving the needs of the citizens of North Carolina. So yes, it will be on Saturday.
Thank you. And are the utilities required to mail information to the customers who are not currently eligible for other programs?
So just going back to what Carlos stated earlier, we are in the process of creating flyers to be sent out to water vendors about the program. And that is something that they could possibly hang up in their offices, or something that they can put in their as a mailer in their bills, just to let people know about the program.
Awesome. And I'm going to allow Victoria to unmute and ask another live question.
So I put a few questions in the Q&A, and I just didn't hear the answers. So with the ACH payment, is that to each individual account, or is it like a one sum payment that comes over and then like with a spreadsheet or something? How does that work? And
I'm sorry, Victoria. You said, could you repeat your question? I could barely hear you. I'm sorry.
Your credit, she was asking, will the vendor get a payment for each individual account, or will it be a joint payment and they'll get like a list of all of the accounts that the payment is for?
Okay, thank you. So yes, it will be a list of payments for everybody that was approved or will receive LIHWAP. That's usually how our county finance officers send those over. It's not, one after the other. They're all on one list with one lump sum of money.
Okay, and then my second question is about the letter that was referenced in the information you all sent. So if it's not a data match, will a letter be sent out to those people that aren't matched? How will they know?
We are working to work on that. Again, that goes back to what Carla said. We will be sending back information to you all to say that they were not matched, and we're just asking for the vendors to again post stuff in their agency or put something in their bill mailers just to let the households know about the program.
Oh, okay, so it comes to us, not
correct,
not the customer.
And
yes,
to the local county DSS office, so they can look and see if they can do an internal match.
yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
We've gotten a lot of questions about how to share the data. I'll send that out in the email to all the attendees and on the listserv again with those links and information about sharing data. All right. The bill, must it be in an adult household member's name only? So if there's not an adult person's name that is not in the household, would that be okay?
So that bill has to be in an adult household member name. We cannot pay bills for any bills in minor children's names or in a deceased household member's name. It has to be an adult, in an adult's name.
Okay, thank you. If someone has a bill in another person's name, but they are responsible for the bill, can it be paid?
So if they're actually coming in to apply, we would just need something from that other person saying that the bill is in their name, but that applicant is responsible for it.
Thank you. When the data sharing is uploaded to the ZIX portal, does that information go to the county, or where else does it go?
It comes to the state office. It's a group email address. We receive it, as well as our NC-FAST partners.
Thank you. He stated that the information will be entered in NC-FAST by county staff. Exactly what information will we be responsible for entering for each categorically eligible family? So I'm guessing that's asking about the data format again.
Right. So for clarification, the information that will be entered by the local DSS offices, they're going to be in the process of entering the actual vendor agreement. If they're submitted data to be matched, that information will be completed by our NC-FAST partners. If they don't submit information, the water vendor doesn't submit information regarding the data match, the county offices will be responsible for looking in the system to see if any of those households are categorically eligible if they come into the office to complete an application or contact by phone or email or e-pass to see if they're actually eligible.
Okay. We've had a couple questions about both customers and utilities keeping track of who's applied and who's eligible. Could you give us any more information about somewhere that either utilities can go or customers can go to know if they're who's within the eligibility criteria and kind of check up on what's going on?
Perfect timing, because I do want to share information about a vendor portal. Jaquita, are you ready for me to talk about that?
Sure.
So the state of North Carolina is in the process of creating a website, a vendor portal for all water and wastewater vendors. It's a new portal that's being created, and it's going to start with the water and wastewater vendors, and then eventually will be opened up for all of our utility providers who receive payments from the state on behalf of their customers. I'm going to share a screen, hopefully, just a second. With information about are you seeing that screen?
We are now.
Okay, with information about our new energy provider portal, which is going to be a part of the NC-FAST system, the North Carolina Families Accessing Services Through Technology. It's built on a Salesforce platform, and it exists really truly to exist to simplify the processing for the vendors that we are working for to help get payments made for our citizens. So it's going to simplify both the approval process, the invoicing process, and also help vendors know exactly what accounts have been approved for a payment and track to see when the payment is made. So utility providers are going to be able to enroll as a service provider through this vendor portal. Right now, you're having to fill out a piece of paper, send it to the local DSS office, get the DSS director to sign off on it to be a participant. When the vendor portal comes up, that will be done through the vendor portal. Now, I hear some of you saying, but I already did the paper. It's okay. The counties are adding you into NC-FAST. When the vendor portal comes up, that data will be pulled over into the new energy provider, so you don't have to do things twice. You'll be able to submit your agreements, and you'll be able to generate invoices, which means this is a payment that this customer is needing to be paid. It will allow you to track, as I mentioned, specific accounts to see if a payment has been approved and to track that payment and invoice right through that portal. So this portal is going to be up and running on November 22nd. I just went back in time. November 22nd. And there is going to be a training specifically for you, the utility provider. 2 of them, in fact. The first one's going to be on November 22nd from 2 to 3:30 p.m. And the second one will be November 23rd from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Those training webinars are specifically to train you on this new vendor portal and how that you can access and get information about your customers and the payments that you are waiting for. I'm thankful that we had a little bit of time to come in and say that, because I wanted you all to be aware that that is coming. We will be sharing information with UNC School of Government to send out to you all of the information. We'll also be sending that to the local county DSS directors to make sure that they can also share that information with you. And of course, you can always use our get a hold of us to ask any questions that you may have as well about the vendor portal. We really hope that this will be a great service to you as long as our water assistance program lasts. And so thank you for giving me that moment to talk about that, Elsa Marie. I'll turn it back over to you.
We are almost out of time for this afternoon. We are not going to be able to get through all of the questions. Thank you all very much for bringing your questions, but we will organize them and create a Q&A document and do our best to get that out to you as soon as possible. But there are a couple ones I think that might be quick answers. One is, how is the state allocating money, and how will the counties know what their allocation is?
So, oh, I'm sorry, Carla, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jaquita, please go.
Okay, so we are in the process of working on those allocations to get it out to the counties. We are very close to having it finalized and finished, and we're working to get it out to you all, hopefully this week, at least by let's say Thursday. Today's what, Tuesday? So we are very close. So I'm going to be optimistic and say Thursday morning to get that out to the county so that you all will know exactly how much you have for that program, as well as admin dollars. Thank
you. I think just the other most urgent kind of question to answer live would be, what can folks expect in terms of updated information about data sharing, and when will there be confirmation that the deadline will not be extended? Kind of, before Friday. I think someone mentioned they're going to be out of the office on Thursday and Friday, so they would need to get it in tomorrow. Could you just kind of go over that and advise utilities on what they should do between now and Friday, and when more information will come out?
So as soon as this call ends, I do plan to reach out to our NC-FAST partners to ask that question as far as can an extension be granted, because of so much concern about the new format just being shared and then the updated data sharing agreement. And then I will be getting back with you, Elsa Marie, as soon as possible. As soon as I get a response from them, I'm hoping that they can respond by close of business today so that we can get that out to all the vendors.
All right, thank you. It is 3:30. There's a lot more questions. There are more I received from email as well as in chat and Q&A. So we're going to do our best to get those answered as soon as possible. And if the folks at if Carla and Jaquita and Jasmine are open to doing another webinar, we might do another one as well to answer some questions, especially maybe before December 1st when the money will actually be rolling out. But for the sake of respecting everybody's time, I'm gonna end this now. But as I said, I'm gonna be sending out the recording, and I'll get the slides from Jasmine. And we'll get a Q&A document as soon as we can out there. Feel free to also, I'll have the Q&A and the chat log, but feel free to send an email as well. You have my email from the registration, but I'll also put it in the chat. And then I can incorporate your questions into the Q&A. And if I don't know the answer, then we'll send it over to others, to Carla, Jaquita, and Jasmine to answer. So thank you all for joining. And I hope you have a good, and thank you very much to Jaquita and Carla for doing such a good job of rapid fire answering the many, many questions. And we'll be in touch. All right. Thank you all for coming.
Bye. Have a good day.